In 2018, the world once again reflected on Albert Einstein's unique views on religion and the universe when his famous God letter was sold at auction for nearly $3 million. This letter, written in 1954, was addressed to the German philosopher Erich Gutkind, who worked at Princeton University. In it, Einstein expressed his profound beliefs about religion, God, and human nature. The scientist noted that the concept of God for him was nothing more than an expression of human weaknesses, and the Bible was a collection of primitive myths with historical but no scientific significance. Einstein was always skeptical of traditional religious ideas but was not a categorical atheist. His worldview was more pantheistic, similar to the views of the philosopher Baruch Spinoza. The scientist believed that a sublime force exists in the universe, one that transcends human understanding, but this force does not possess the form or consciousness typically attributed to gods by humans. Once, in a conversation with an American colleague, he openly stated, "I do not believe in a bearded man in the sky who watches every step we take." These words were not merely a critique of religion. Einstein sought to explain that, in his opinion, true religiosity is not achieved through fear of punishment or blind faith, but through the pursuit of knowledge and understanding. True religiosity is the awareness of the grandeur of the universe and the effort to understand its laws, he said. Einstein also compared humanity to dancers moving to the music of an invisible musician. This image symbolized the natural laws influencing all aspects of our lives. He emphasized that all events in the world are governed by strict natural laws and that, in this context, there is no such thing as chance. This idea formed the basis of his famous quote, "God does not play dice." The scientist was convinced that the human mind is too limited to fully grasp the mechanisms of the universe. He compared people to children looking at a complex device without understanding how it works. We can partially comprehend the laws of nature, but their full meaning remains beyond our reach. Einstein not only studied the laws of physics but also delved into deeper moral questions. He claimed that humans have the freedom of choice, but at the same time, their actions are always limited by natural laws and circumstances. Einstein often reflected on how people use the concept of God to justify their behavior or find meaning in life. He believed that traditional religion was outdated, as it was based on fear of the unknown and the promise of a reward after death. In Einstein's view, this approach not only limited human development but also hindered true understanding. The scientist repeatedly emphasized the importance of morality, which, in his opinion, should not be tied to religious dogmas. He highlighted that moral principles are not needed for God but for humanity itself. People must learn to live in harmony with one another and with nature, guided by reason and not by the fear of punishment, he said. It is noteworthy that, although Einstein criticized religious concepts, he acknowledged the tremendous influence of religious figures on the history of humanity. He particularly emphasized the role of individuals like Jesus, Buddha, and Moses, who inspired millions and laid the moral foundations for many cultures. Einstein believed that their influence was even greater than that of science, as they established the basis for ethical behavior. An interesting moment in Einstein's life was his response to a question posed by a New York rabbi in 1929. The rabbi, aware of Einstein's Jewish background, asked whether he believed in God. In his reply, Einstein stated that he did not believe in a God who intervenes in human destiny but acknowledged the existence of the harmony of the universe, which evokes awe. Nevertheless, Einstein never tried to impose his views on others. He believed that every individual has the right to decide for themselves what they believe in and how they interpret the concept of God. His own belief was more of a scientific fascination with the perfection and complexity of nature. A particularly notable statement by Einstein is, "Two things in the universe are infinite: the universe and human stupidity." This remark not only reveals his perspective on the limitations of humanity, but also underscores the importance for everyone to strive for self-awareness and growth. Einstein also believed that the catastrophes and tragedies that occurred in the 20th century were the result of human irresponsibility and poor decisions. He often said that humans were given free will but, along with it, the responsibility for their actions. In his opinion, it is meaningless to blame God for wars or natural disasters, as humans themselves are responsible for what happens in the world. It is interesting that Einstein repeatedly turned to philosophical concepts to explain his thoughts in greater depth. His views often leaned towards the ideas of Immanuel Kant, especially in the context of the limitations of the human mind. Einstein compared our understanding of the universe to that of a child observing the complex mechanism of a car. We see the movement, understand that there is a certain logic behind it, but are not able to grasp the full extent and true nature of the processes. He believed that everything in the universe is subject to strict laws that we have not yet fully deciphered. The phrase, "God does not play dice," became his manifesto of faith in determinism and the harmony of natural laws. In his view, there is no randomness, and all events in the world are caused by factors that we are just beginning to understand. This approach stood in stark contrast to the ideas held by Einstein's contemporaries, particularly quantum physicists. Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg, for example, regarded randomness as a fundamental part of nature. According to their ideas, the quantum world does not follow fixed laws but works through probabilities. Although Einstein acknowledged the successes of quantum mechanics, he remained skeptical and emphasized that behind randomness lies a deeper logic. Regarding religious traditions, Einstein had particular respect for Spinoza, the 17th-century Dutch philosopher. He shared his idea of pantheism, where God and nature are one and the same. For Einstein, the universe was an expression of the divine, but not in an anthropomorphic sense, rather as an embodiment of harmony and order. In this context, Einstein's statement is interesting. "I want to know God's thoughts. The rest are just details." This sentence perfectly reflects his desire to unravel the greatest mysteries of existence. Einstein believed that humanity had an incredible potential for knowledge, but he was also aware that full understanding of nature would be beyond our grasp. An equally important aspect of Einstein's worldview was ethics. He emphasized that moral behavior should not be based on fear of punishment or the hope for a reward after death. In his opinion, true ethics should be the result of an inner desire to do good and understand the consequences of one's actions. Einstein also pointed out how people tend to justify their behavior by referencing higher powers. He criticized this approach, seeing it as an attempt to avoid responsibility. Every person has the freedom of choice, but at the same time, they bear full responsibility for their decisions, the scientist said. Discussions of Einstein's religious views continue even decades after his death. His letters, particularly the famous God Letter, are a living testament to his deep reflections on the meaning of life and humanity's place in the universe. They also provoke numerous interpretations. Some see in his words a complete rejection of faith, while others see a desire for its re-evaluation. It is interesting that Einstein never described himself as an atheist. He emphasized that aggressive atheism, which denies the existence of a higher power, is just as extreme as blind religious belief. His position was more akin to deism, the belief that the universe was created according to certain laws but is not governed by a supernatural entity. Einstein repeatedly emphasized that the grandeur of nature exceeds our conceptions of God. He said that gazing at the stars, the awareness of the infinity of the cosmos, and the harmony of its laws were the greatest sources of inspiration and religiosity. His religion was closely tied to science and the desire to understand the world in its full complexity. One of the key themes that Einstein addressed was the interaction between science and religion. He believed that these two areas were not contradictory but rather complementary. "Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind," he wrote. Einstein believed that science provides us with tools to understand the physical world, while religion helps us find an ethical compass and answers to fundamental questions about the meaning of life. His words resonated with many of his contemporaries, who also sought a balance between science and spirituality. American philosopher and theologian Paul Tillich agreed that science and religion should not contradict each other. He wrote that scientific discoveries only amplify the sense of awe before the mysteries of the universe. However, not all of Einstein's thoughts were received positively. Some religious organizations criticized him for his skeptical attitude towards traditional beliefs. They saw his statements as a threat to moral foundations. Einstein responded by stating that morality did not need to be based on religious foundations. He viewed ethical principles as the result of cultural development and humanity's collective experience. Despite the criticism, many of his statements became a source of inspiration for thinkers and scientists of the 20th century. His idea that humanity dances to the invisible music became a symbol of the unity of all things in the universe. This analogy serves as a reminder that even in the most chaotic processes, order and beauty exist. Einstein rejected the traditional image of God as a person who influences our lives and saw the divine in the harmony of nature itself. For him, the universe, with its unfathomable laws, was proof of a higher power, but this power had no human face and did not interfere in people's lives. His observations of nature, as well as his research in cosmology and physics, led him to this viewpoint. He saw no need to personify God, as nature, in his opinion, already represented the greatest miracle that one could enjoy. In this respect, his views differed significantly from religious notions of a God who rewards or punishes people for their behavior. Einstein rejected any idea of a God acting as a judge. In his view, human freedom does not lie in living under the direct influence of divine will but in awareness of and submission to the laws of nature. Only through reasonable understanding of the world can true spiritual progress be made. He was not against belief, but emphasized that true religion should be based on understanding and a scientific approach. Moreover, Einstein often compared human understanding of the world to the recognition of a child trying to comprehend a complex machine like a car. In his view, humanity was only at the beginning of its journey to grasp the true laws of the universe. Although we can observe how these laws work, it was, in his opinion, impossible to fully decipher their secrets for the human mind. Nature, according to Einstein, tolerates no coincidences. His famous quote, "God does not play dice," emphasizes his belief that everything in the world follows a law. This statement challenges the concepts of randomness or chaos in nature and the universe. He believed that even when confronted with misfortunes or catastrophes, these are not products of chance but part of a larger, orderly picture. There is order in the world, even if we cannot always understand it due to our limited capacity for understanding. Einstein also repeatedly emphasized the importance of the development of science to improve the moral state of humanity. He believed that science would help create a more just world, but only through the intellectual and moral improvement of each individual. In his view, moral improvement is not only a matter of religion or belief, but also the result of a deep understanding of the world and responsibility for one's actions. An important aspect for Einstein was also the issue of freedom of choice. He believed that humans cannot completely free themselves from the laws of nature, but still have the freedom to respond to them. Whether this is the choice of good or evil depends on the moral responsibility of each individual. Therefore, he emphasized the importance of morality, which should be based on reason and objective principles, not on blind faith in divine intervention. Einstein was a person whose contribution to science and culture was undeniable. However, his thoughts on God, religion, science, and morality are still relevant today. They call for knowledge, understanding, and the pursuit of harmony with the surrounding world to make our existence more meaningful and responsible. Can we find the truth in such deep questions? Can we truly understand the universe like Einstein did? These are questions each of us seeks our own answer to. Einstein believed that science and religion could coexist if religion was understood as the search for deeper truths and harmony in the world, and not as blind faith in supernatural powers. He was convinced that people should not believe in divine miracles but in the miracles of the world itself, which reveal themselves to us through scientific research and knowledge. For him, the highest act of faith was to be impressed by the incredible complexity and beauty of nature, which manifests itself through physical laws, mathematical formulas, and principles, and to acknowledge them. In his numerous interviews and letters, Einstein often spoke about the importance of the moral development of humanity, regardless of whether one had religious beliefs or not. He believed that morality and ethics should be based on humanity, compassion, and the pursuit of good, and not on adherence to religious dogmas. This became especially clear during the World Wars, when he emphasized that the catastrophes on the planet were the result of the lack of moral orientation and insufficient development of human consciousness. Particularly interesting is his conception of freedom of choice. He said that although we cannot change the physical laws of nature, we have the freedom to respond and decide how we act within this system. For him, the meaning of choice lay in the fact that a person becomes aware of their responsibility towards themselves and others. This was a form of moral freedom that did not imply the absence of constraints, but allowed the individual to choose their path in life in alignment with their inner understanding of good and evil. An important feature of Einstein's views was also his deep conviction that science and spirituality do not necessarily have to conflict with each other. Scientific knowledge does not exclude the possibility that there is something greater that humans cannot fully understand or explain. In this regard, Einstein rejected both extremes of atheism and blind religiosity. His approach was more moderate, emphasizing the importance of human understanding without dismissing what lies beyond complete comprehension. Over time, many of his ideas also found resonance with other great scientists and philosophers. To this day, his thoughts on the relationship between science, religion, and morality continue to inspire new achievements in these fields. However, it is important to emphasize that his own words about God and the universe remain open to interpretation, which makes his views quite universal. Einstein's ideas are often compared with those of other great thinkers like Spinoza and Kant, who also did not view God as a personalized entity intervening in daily life, but rather as a force underlying the laws of nature. Einstein was close to these ideas and even acknowledged his debt to them. However, his contribution lay in combining them with scientific research and discoveries in the field of physics, which significantly changed our understanding of the world. When we return to the question Einstein raised in his conversations, whether there is a place for God in science, his answer was undoubtedly, God exists in the laws that govern the universe, not as a personalized entity that interferes in human affairs. It is through these laws that we can recognize the truth and seek eternal harmony in the world around us. Einstein always sought unity in his views, where science and spirituality do not contradict each other but complement one another. This discovery was not only significant for his time but also for future generations. His pursuit of an objective understanding of the world, along with the recognition that some questions remain beyond human understanding, makes his philosophical legacy especially relevant today. We live in an era where science and technology have made great progress, yet we still cannot provide clear answers to the deepest questions of human existence. Although Einstein, like many other great thinkers, did not have answers to all questions, he emphasized the importance of the constant search and striving for knowledge. Scientific progress and spiritual search, in his view, are not mutually exclusive but can rather complement each other. In his works and speeches, he encouraged humanity to pursue deeper self-awareness, to understand not only the physical laws but also the moral principles that govern our behavior in the world. Perhaps the most important lesson we can draw from Einstein's views is that the human mind is limited, but this limited mind can make great strides if it is willing to acknowledge its boundaries and strive for a deeper understanding of the world, rather than simply seeking easy answers. This process of recognition is infinite and complex, but at the same time, incredibly exciting. Einstein was one of those who showed that great scientific discoveries and profound philosophical reflections know no bounds. They help people expand their perception of the world without limiting it to the material and physical aspects of existence. He believed in the infinity of knowledge, and perhaps it was this belief that helped him reach such heights in science. In conclusion, Einstein's views on science, religion, and moral values remain relevant today. They inspire people to search for truth not only in the physical world but also in the deep questions of human existence, and urge us to constantly improve and evolve both as individuals and as a collective. His legacy, the pursuit of knowledge, openness to new ideas, and the courage to ask difficult questions, leads us to an expansion of the boundaries of human understanding.